When paper trails block real paths, the hidden crisis of housing discrimination. Have you ever had a moment when a single piece of paper stood between you and everything you needed? A moment when your entire future hinged on what someone read about you rather than who you actually are. I recently had the profound privilege of interviewing Andrea Atkins, the visionary founder of Second Chance Transitions Inc. in Wichita Falls, Texas. Andrea isn't just another nonprofit leader, she's a force of nature disguised as a human being. In a world where many talk about change, Andrea builds it with her bare hands, brick by brick, life by life. What struck me most about her wasn't just her impressive list of accomplishments, but the fierce compassion that drives her work. She's not just changing systems, she's rewiring the very circuits of opportunity in her community with a determination that's nothing short of revolutionary. Let me ask you something. What would you do if you applied for 10 apartments, had the money for all 10, but got rejected by all 10 because of something that happened 5 years ago, something that no longer reflects who you are or your ability to be a responsible tenant? This isn't a hypothetical question. This is the daily reality for thousands of Americans who find themselves trapped in a bureaucratic purgatory where their past mistakes have become their permanent identity. We live in a society obsessed with documentation: your credit score, your rental history, your criminal background check. These paper trails follow us everywhere, determining our worthiness for basic necessities like housing. But what these documents often fail to capture is the most important thing: our humanity, our capacity for growth, our potential for redemption. Andrea's organization, Second Chance Transitions, understands this fundamental disconnect. They recognize that behind every eviction notice, behind every credit score, behind every background check is a human being with a story that deserves to be heard. A story that doesn't end with a mistake or a moment of crisis. Consider this story from Andrea's work. A single Black mother in Wichita Falls with stable employment and excellent references kept facing rejection after rejection from landlords. Why? An old eviction on her record that automated screening systems flagged without context or compassion. For years, she had been working multiple jobs while raising children alone, leaving her with precious little time or knowledge about the legal remedies available to her. This woman wasn't looking for charity. She wasn't asking for special treatment. She was simply seeking what we all deserve: a safe place to raise her family, a home, something our society has somehow transformed from a basic human right into a reward for perfect paperwork. Second Chance Transition stepped in, providing legal guidance on expungement processes and supporting her through the necessary paperwork. With the eviction removed from her record under Fair Credit Reporting Act guidelines, she secured stable housing within 2 months. 2 months. After years of rejection, years of explaining to her children why they couldn't have stability, years of wondering if her one mistake would forever define her family's possibilities. This isn't just about putting a roof over someone's head, it's about restoring dignity. It's about recognizing that people are more than their worst day, their biggest mistake, or their most vulnerable moment. It's about understanding that the distance between stability and crisis is often much shorter than we imagine. And here's what's particularly insidious about this system: it disproportionately impacts communities already facing systemic barriers. Black and Brown Americans, single parents, formerly incarcerated individuals trying to rebuild their lives, the very people who have been historically denied access to wealth building opportunities now face additional barriers because of systems designed to perpetuate exclusion rather than foster inclusion. Let me share another story Andrea told me about. A young Black father recently released from incarceration struggled with poor credit history, a common issue among formerly incarcerated Texans seeking permanent housing. Landlords routinely denied his applications due to low credit scores revealed during background checks. After years in prison, he lacked basic financial management skills, having been completely removed from mainstream banking systems. His motivation was simple and profound. He wanted stability for himself and his child. A fresh start after paying his debt to society. Isn't that what we claim our justice system is about? Rehabilitation and second chances through Second Chance. Transitions intensive financial literacy workshops, he learned budgeting basics, debt repayment strategies, and step by step credit rebuilding techniques. Within 6 months, just 6 months, he improved his credit score significantly enough to qualify for independent rental units instead of transitional halfway houses, where space is extremely limited in Texas. He didn't need a handout, he needed knowledge, he needed advocacy. He needed someone to see beyond his paper trail to his potential. He needed someone to believe that his future could be different from his past. This is the holistic approach that makes Andrea's work so effective. It's not just about addressing immediate housing needs, but tackling the underlying factors that contribute to instability: employment support, credit restoration, eviction, removal assistance, resume preparation, and financial literacy education. And it's working. It's working because it treats people as whole human beings, not as problems to be solved or statistics to be managed. It's working because it acknowledges that housing insecurity is rarely just about housing. It's about systems that are designed to exclude rather than embrace. I want to share one more story that Andrea told me because it illustrates how quickly anyone can find themselves on the brink of homelessness. A recently unemployed Black professional woman lost both job security and stable residency following company layoffs during an economic downturn. Without recent work experience or updated application materials, she found herself unable to even get in interviews despite strong credentials. The loss of income threatened imminent homelessness for herself and her dependents. Her story mirrors many mid career professionals blindsided by sudden layoffs who lack community safety nets. It could happen to any of us, it could happen to you. The comfortable myth that homelessness only happens to certain types of people is just that, a myth designed to make us feel safe in our own privilege. Second Chance Transitions provided one on one coaching, including resume building workshops tailored specifically toward local industries and facilitated connections with employers open minded about non-linear career paths. The result? She secured full time employment within 3 weeks and quickly stabilized her living situation before the crisis escalated further. 3 weeks. That's all it took to prevent homelessness when the right support was available at the right time. 3 weeks that made the difference between stability and crisis. 3 weeks that kept a family together, kept children in school, kept hope alive. What these stories reveal is something profound about our society's approach to housing insecurity. We've created systems that punish vulnerability rather than respond to it with compassion. We've built bureaucracies that prioritize paperwork over people. And in doing so, we've made it nearly impossible for many to escape cycles of instability. But Andrea and her team at Second Chance Transitions are showing us a different way forward. They're demonstrating that when we focus on single parents and families in crisis, those disproportionately affected by housing insecurity, we can break the cycle before it escalates into chronic homelessness. They're proving that advocacy for systemic change matters just as much as direct service. By addressing how background checks can unfairly impact those with criminal records or prior evictions, and educating clients about their rights under federal laws like the Fair Credit Reporting Act. They're empowering community members not only to overcome personal barriers, but also to challenge systemic obstacles. This work isn't just about housing, it's about justice. It's about recognizing that a society that makes redemption impossible is a society that has abandoned its moral compass. Because let's be honest, a society that makes it this difficult for people to secure basic shelter after making mistakes or experiencing hardship isn't just inefficient, it's unjust. It's a society that has confused punishment with accountability, that has mistaken exclusion for safety. The truth is, we all benefit when everyone has stable housing. Crime rates decrease, public health improves, educational outcomes for children get better, economic productivity increases. The research on this is clear and consistent. Housing stability isn't just good for those who receive it, it's good for all of us. So, why do we make it so hard? Why do we allow automated systems to reject human beings without considering context or growth? Why do we permit landlords to discriminate based on past mistakes rather than present stability? Why have we created a system where redemption exists only for those privileged enough to afford it? These are the questions Andrea's work forces us to confront. And they're questions we should all be asking ourselves, especially those of us who have never had to worry about housing security, who have never known what it feels like to be defined by our worst moments. I want to challenge every one of you listening today to recognize your power in this broken system. Whether you're a landlord, a property manager, a policymaker, or simply a voter, you have the power to demand change. You have the power to see people as more than their paper trails. You have the power to create systems that prioritize humanity over bureaucracy. Ask yourself, what would it look like if we created housing systems designed to include rather than exclude? What would it mean if we valued redemption as much as we value punishment? What would change if we recognized housing as a human right rather than a privilege to be earned? The answers to these questions could transform our communities. They could create cities where everyone has the opportunity to thrive, where mistakes don't become life sentences, where vulnerability is met with support rather than punishment. This is the world Andrea Atkins is fighting for. This is the vision that drives Second Chance Transitions. And it's a vision we should all embrace, not just because it's compassionate, but because it's smart. Not just because it helps others, but because it strengthens us all. So today, I'm asking you to do more than listen. I'm asking you to act. Challenge the automated systems in your own organizations that might be perpetuating exclusion. Advocate for fair housing policies in your communities. Support organizations like Second Chance Transitions that are doing the hard work of creating pathways to stability. Because in the end, we are all more than our paper trails. We are all worthy of second chances, and we all deserve a place to call home. The question isn't whether we can create a more just housing system. The question is whether we have the courage to do so. Andrea Atkins has shown us what that courage looks like. Now it's our turn to follow her lead.